Good to see you again. If you heard somebody in Britain say something like Great Britain is run by a cabal, you'd probably think that these people are crazy, um, some type of crazy conspiracy theorist. Um, I'm attaching a video below. You should look at it. It's very informative. Uh, I don't want to talk about conspiracy theories. I want to talk about something that's just a little bit more every day in your life. You can watch that video. It's got historical information, facts, and you can look at it and figure out how you want to put together the dots yourself. What I find basically in most of what I experience in life is that people don't want to put together the dots. It aggravates me. I listen to certain people that I like to listen to more than others. When I turn on the news, like I turn on ABC or whatnot, or even if I turn on some Fox, even if I'm listening to certain characters talk, it's like I just turn them off because as soon as they open them, they are such deceitful liars, and it has repeatedly been. If you have eyes that are open, you can't avoid seeing it, and they just lied over and over, and it's the same story, and it's just not worth listening to them because nothing new comes out of their mouths. So, you know, so there's certain things I just shut down because it's just not worth it. But I listen to certain guys who I think are, they for the most part give me good information. But I get aggravated when anybody, I don't care whether they're over on the right or the left or up or down, I don't care. Well, I know that they have their agendas. Everybody's got an agenda. They're all trying to convince us of something, or well, they are trying to convince us if they're sharing. And I'm trying to convince you of something. I'm trying to convince you. Think. That's what I'm trying to convince you to do. I don't need I don't need to try to tell you what to think specifically. I'm just trying to urge you to think. That's what I do. Uh, but you know, they will just say things that I'll say. Wait a second, I watched a piece of it, and they show videos of this being said and that being said. I watched a video the other day of a Jewish authority saying something atrocious. And I'm pretty sure that that Jewish authority would not have said that to anybody. And I think what he was saying was, "Oh, people say that we do X, Y, Z." Now, I'm not here to support Israel or anything like that. Okay, when I say Jewish authority, I mean Israeli authority, government or military authority, whatnot. I didn't mean Jew. That wouldn't be correct. Israeli. So, and that's the point. See, we need to say what we really mean, and not use words and share ideas that are questionable. Well, if you want to question it, it's okay, but you should. If people are going to share information with me, I want them to have the facts. I don't want them to tell me something that they think sounds good. That aggravates me. I'm talking up and down. I'm talking about your preacher. I'm talking about your TV personalities. I'm talking about the YouTube influencer. I'm talking about the guys that you have a coffee with every morning. Don't run your mouth unless you know what you're talking about. That's what I believe in. Now, maybe I mess up myself sometimes, but we should strive for that, right? So, at this point, I want to talk about something a little bit more specific. At this point, there are thousands of organizations, thousands, with the simple purpose of influencing our lives. That's what this video below is about. It's about Britain, but I think it's informative to think about what has gone on in Britain for the last 100 years and sort of look around you. Now, I'm old enough and worked in enough different places, different ways, that I've experienced things, and I feel pretty confident that I've seen people trying to influence all kind of things. Sometimes I'm in agreement with them. I'm trying to assist them, okay? But when I look at how it's working, it's all the same thing. It's not always nefarious, okay? But you need to be watching out what's going on. And I'll explain why when I get to the very end, okay? So, I'm in this case of these organizations, I'm not talking about YouTube influencers. You know, we can sort of write them off as people who are maybe they're good, maybe they're just nuts. Okay, but those aren't. You know, we know if we like what they're saying, if they say the things that we think, then we like them fine, and we're going to listen to them, right? If they say things that are ridiculous to us, then we're just not going to listen to them. We're not going to begin to listen to them, right? But there's a lot of organizations around that are trustworthy. We believe, right? And these are the ones I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about YouTube influencers, but bodies that seek to influence society, often through government, but also through societal institutions like schools, churches, professional organizations, and social clubs. They're there all over the place. You know, if you're in a social club, you need a and you have a weekly meeting, you need a presentation, you know, for the club. Well, you know, you can invite in all kind of people who are happy to give you. This is our agenda. This is what we do. We are trying to get people to do all kind of good things. Okay, so or you're part of a professional organization that you get your professional hours for. You know, like you have to have so many hours. So you go to a conference. I went to a conference that, in fact, it's the last one I went to for my own professional organization. And every one of them was trying to cram, every presentation tried to cram global warming down your throat as if it was God's truth. And there's just so many questions about that it's clear that these people were not seeking truth because there's too much science. Even at that point, this was several years ago. There's too much science, as you've heard me say in the past, I actually was part of this effort. I taught I was a adjunct professor for green infrastructure at a local college. You know, so but I wanted to find out the truth, and the more I studied about it, the more I realized, wait a second, this is about a lot of philosophy. Okay, so. But my point I'm trying to make is I went to this conference and I just got fed up with it. It was just give me stuff that's real, not your agenda, not you trying to cram whatever the current social justice thing is down my throat. Okay, that's for other places. That's not for my professional organization where I'm going to get CEUs. All right. If I want to go to a conference on social justice, I'll go to a conference on social justice. That's my point, right? All right. So now this is occurring on the federal, state, and regional level. Now, when I say regional, I don't mean like the southeast region of the United States. I mean the southeast region of your state. Okay. So the federal, state, and regional efforts. There are plenty of organizations, I'm sure, in every state. Certainly here in this state, they're all over the place with different purposes, with different agendas, trying to help development in one way or the other. Some trying to do scientific stuff, some trying to save the world, all kind of things. Okay, and I've supported many of these organizations myself and participated in them, etc. But they're there. And this is what, see, having participated in them all and seen, I've come through it and I'm on the other side of it and I'm looking at, you know, what was this all about? So these groups come up with mission statements, they give up visions, goals, and then metrics, okay? And then what they do is they come to your community meeting. They come make a presentation to your county commissioners or your city council or your Kiwanis Club or Rotary Club or maybe your city holds a community meeting for the whole community. Come and discuss things. You know, I remember going to one community meeting a good while back, and what the county was looking at doing was saving some wetlands and other natural lands. I'm not against that. There's certain repercussions to it. I think you need to be fair about what you're doing, etc., etc., etc. Do it, etc., etc. I have no doubt that if we want to save a Florida panther, well, look here, I don't want the Florida panther crawling through my backyard, okay? He needs to have the corridor that he needs. This is just basic good biology, okay? We have to have room for a Florida panther. Some people don't understand that. They don't want to give up any land, etc. But anyway, and if you disagree with that's not what's important here, okay? I'm just saying. So there's a panel. They brought in the people from the Fish and Wildlife Organization services. And there were people in the meeting who were complaining because, when they were 40-year-old people, and they were, ever since they were 12 years old, they would take their four-wheelers and three-wheelers out through the woods and tear up the woods out there. And that's fine when everything's woods. But little by little, this county is just turning into one big urban mess. Okay? And so, hey, we need to save some area for these big cats and bears and things like that to move up and down the state, because they used to do this, and they still do to a degree, right? There's a certain thing called fragmentation, and I've talked about this in other videos. It's a critical thing. They've done the research on it. If you don't when you fragment the areas that these animals live in, and their population collapses. Okay, that's an aside. That's not what I'm talking about today. But these people were mad, and the point I'm trying to make is the Fish and Wildlife people were giving you the philosophy for why you need to do it, right? So somebody shows up and gives the philosophy. I've participated in other things where we're talking about community planning and where to put this and that and the other. And then we have round table discussions with members of the community who are there to participate. But first, you see, they educate you. You get educated. You get propagandized. If you that's what education is, and to some degree, isn't it? The teacher is teaching you the way they do it. So right now we have kids learning math in a way that makes no sense to me anymore, right? But this is the way the teacher learned to do it now in the last 20 years, and they're teaching our kids this stuff today. It worked for me, what I did. I don't know why we got to change it all the time, but it doesn't matter. This is education, a new way of thinking. Anyway. So you have these organizations that exist. They hold conferences themselves. They hold seminars themselves, or they come to your, maybe your education association or your professional association, and they hold seminars for you at your conferences and whatnot. Either way, they're there, and their goal is to influence you. That's the short of it. Their goal is to influence you. Their goal is to educate you, to get you to see the light, right? So, as I said, I'm not saying every think tank that comes along is nefarious, but we need to pay attention to what's going on around us. What's happening. Because the problem is these things end up as laws, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So, that's not a problem. For certain people, right? The 1800s farmer, he'd had hardly any land use kind of requirement of any type. He didn't have to worry about non-point source pollution. If he wanted to stop up a little stream somewhere and make himself a cow pond, it was fine. Nobody said anything to him. The candlestick maker, nobody had a health and safety requirement for the candlestick maker back in the 1700s. They could do what they wanted to. So the majority of human history has been, if we just stay out of the way, we can do what we want to do. If we got a little farm, we can do. The only thing you have to worry about is whether or not that army comes marching through and takes all your animals when they're on their going to war and they need something to eat, right? It's like, or bandits show up and something like that shows up and steals whatever you have. So. But the government wasn't doing too much to you, other than those armies coming through and taking stuff, maybe. But things are very, 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 very different today. And the problem is these things end up as laws. So the key thing here is that none of this is grassroots from the local level. I told you, It's federal, it's state, it's regional. These are bodies that, they're people who get together because of either they start at certain places, and that's what's interesting in watching that piece, that video about Britain, is that you get a sense of how these things work. Just some people getting together with an idea, and they want to promote it. And look, same thing with people who are spreading their religious faith. Few people get together. There, I got people coming to my door all the time, leaving pamphlets on my door, knocking on my door all the time, and they're trying to influence me. And that's not necessarily. They are not a regional thing. They're their own little group, local people, right? Now they get regional. They get institutional pamphlets from their denomination or whatnot. But so these things aren't local. If you have somebody in your local government or etc. that comes up with an idea, it's not probably coming up with an idea because it came from them. It comes from them going to some professional or other kind of philosophical conference or seminar, and they get taught that where they're at, and they come back home and they try to do something about it. I remember about a decade ago, maybe a little bit more, I was participating. The Peacemakers, Ken Sande, if you know of that. It was about peace in the church, is what it was about, because our local church had a big row, and so part of our penitence, which I was all for, was to participate with this program that was nationwide, maybe it's worldwide, Ken Sande, on peacemaking. And we went to seminars about peacemaking, and we came back to our church and we tried to do some of the stuff, some of the carry out some of those ideas that we got from the seminar. Now that didn't come from us, did it? We had a reason why we wanted to go find out about it, yes, and that's okay if the local people really want to know something and they go and seek it out, you know. But very often that's not the way it happens. It's because you pay your local government employee to go to conferences, and they go to the conferences and they come up with these great ideas, and they come back and then they start cramming them down everybody's throat as fast as they can. So, and here are some of them. There is now a tree in this community. There's a tree shade requirement for over the pervious areas. This is new to me in general, because typically in sustainability we were looking at shade over hardscape, because to cut down with the heat island effect, where the sun hits the concrete, the asphalt and concrete, and it reflects up and it creates heat, urban heat island. But this is about, hey, saving water. Now, this is an idea that came with over a decade ago, 15, 20 years ago. Some organization, some natural save the world kind of organization came up with, I think it was WaterStar, I'm not sure, came up with these things that communities could do to help cut down on their water use. They were optional. In fact, they were pretty much there for if a developer built a community, a new community, he'd say, we're a WaterStar community. We're helping the environment. This is just a marketing thing. Same thing with LEEDs, with the U.S. Green Building Council. LEEDs, it was just a marketing thing. You got points. So, hey, we're a silver star. We are a gold star, etc. And then you use that to market your community and people who cared about the environment, all of these people who are driving Teslas today, etc. They're going to go, oh, that's the kind of community I want to live in, one where they save energy and stuff. Okay. Well, guess what? It's now their policy. It is not just an optional thing. You have to do it. I have to do calculations I have to select trees. They don't care what tree I select. They don't care if it's native. They don't care whether it dies tomorrow. It's ridiculous. But it's something that became a rule. So now you can't get your project approved in this community with this water company unless they sign off on it, and you have to have a plan that says, hey, we're not covering, we have shade that shades at least 30% of the property, or the open space where grass and shrubs grow. Okay. Now, to me, there's a whole lot of problem with that. There's a biological, horticultural problem with that. But they don't care because they got this list of things and they decided, well, this is what we're doing. And nobody knew enough. This is the problem with so much of this stuff. People don't know enough about what's happening in your community, on your piece of land, and they come up with these regulations that affect you in ridiculous ways. So that's one of them. Native plants. Now, I sat on our local county ad hoc team where sat down with county staff, and we brainstormed about what to put in the landscape code. And some people wanted, let's make everything native plant. Everything needs to be native plants. Well, that's not practical. In fact, unfortunately, we just had a deep freeze here a month ago, and one of the plants that now has become pervasive everywhere, that I moved down here to Central Florida in 87, in 93, There was a freeze in 87 that killed orange groves, everything, all over the place. I moved down here, and when I got here, the landscape architects I worked with, hey, we're not planting any queen palms. We're not planting this plant, this, all kind of things that we are not specifying in a yard or on a piece of property because they'll get frozen. Well, the problem is these freezes don't happen but every 30 years or so, right? So, and everybody talked about global warming and global warming and global warming and global warming. And so I finally succumbed to going, well, here's a plant that everybody's using, the firebush. Everyone loves it. Native Plant Society loves it. Everybody loves it. I have it in my yard. I tried it in my yard for years, and it was worked fine. Growing. But hey, last month everything in Central Florida got burnt. That's been about a month. I don't see anything green on my nice big old firebush. Not a green anything. My bougainvillea, which are beautiful plants, got frozen, but it has a little bit. It can come back. Okay, crown lilies freeze everything, but they come right back. Okay, but the point is, this firebush cannot exist naturally in Central Florida. So, lesson learned. But here's the thing. The reason I got into that. If we tried to make everything, there's not enough native plants that they can cultivate. Think about how many plants. You go to a Home Depot and you can count the number of plants, and there's probably 200 species of plants there, from annuals to everything, right? That's probably on the high side. How many species of plants do you think are in the world? Thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands. And they're not being grown for Home Depot to put in your yard, right? So you can't just say, hey, everything needs to be native. It's not practical. You can't find them. Nobody can grow them, etc. Okay? There's lupine. It is a native plant here that is a beautiful plant. In the wild, it's great. You cannot grow one in a pot and put it in a yard, unfortunately, because I'd love to have it in my yard. Anyway, let's keep going. Urban Land Institute. This is the one that has had huge influence with city planning in the last 30 years or so. And it all makes sense to me. Guess what? I've got an Urban Land Institute kind of subdivision built right over here next to mine, and I wouldn't want to live in that for anything. These houses are crammed on top of each other. Theoretically, it's a great idea. Yeah, we can put more people into a tighter area and we can save the countryside. Okay? Now, there are a whole lot of these reasons to put people into a tight area. And so there could be people who have other motives for getting us all into tight areas. But the general, as a conservation oriented, sustainability oriented kind of person, that makes sense to me as far as community planning goes. It's just that ooh man, I don't want to live these lots, just big old 2-story houses everywhere, crammed in together. Okay, now if you lived in Boston, you live in a townhouse. That's something to use to, right? And probably many of these people come in and moving into this community come from urban areas, and it's no big deal to them. I come from a place where we had 10 acres around my house, so I'm not interested in having a next door neighbor right up my back. Anyway, so this video reveals, the video that's attached reveals how things have been in England and have been influenced over the last century. And what, as I listened to the guy talking in the video, it made me start thinking about the various things he talked about the Fabian Society being influencing is, first of all, we keep hearing about, if you pay any attention to people talking on the news and on talk shows, we keep hearing about how, like, oh, the Chinese Communist Party is, and the Chinese culture itself is very deliberate about what they do. They're planning. And so they plan for the long term. And they'll plan for generations. And you can do what you want to today, but they're plotting, persistent, and they are going to succeed in the long term because we Westerners are too quickly changing their minds. And this is the problem with having a president elected every 4 years, because he comes in with this idea, then she comes in with that idea, and he comes in with this idea, and he comes in with this idea, right? They cancel treaties, they start treaties, etc. It's really problematic. Well, it is problematic, but it's the way we do things. But my point is the Chinese are long term. They're just waiting around. They're waiting on us to make a mistake. They're going to take a chance, make a move on whatever problem we create for ourselves. That's the kind of thing you hear people talk about. And well, it was interesting to listen about this society and what its plans were and how it talked about where it was going. And if you pay attention to, there are multiple organizations like this around the world that have long-term plans, and they tell you what it's not hidden. And that's what's interesting about the Fabian Society this guy's talking about, is how they didn't hide it all. This is what they say. This is what this is what we are, what we're about, what we're going to do. Okay, that reminds me of the World Economic Forum that has met in Davos all these years. This is what we are. This is what we're going to do, and we're talking about it in our conferences all the time, and we'll even go to talk to a Congress. New World Order. I remember George H.W. Bush in the early 90s when he was the president, talking about the New World Order, and I thought, man, that's great. We're going to have a New World Order. Great. Well, I've come to find that New World Order is not as idealistic as it sounded. Once you really start looking at how they affect things all the way down the line. So the it makes me think of the World Economic Forum. It makes me think of the echoes of the the Chinese Communist Party and their social credit system that you've heard them, especially during the big virus situation. You heard about people who were, losing their ability to buy things and stuff because they had said things and done things that were inappropriate, weren't socially appropriate, and therefore they were banned from being able to purchase things, etc. Maybe their phones were cut off or whatnot. Then it makes me think of Canada just here in the last few years coming up with legalizing euthanasia, putting people to death. I mean, I know that a lot of us are suicidal. I know that we don't like pain. I know we want everything easy. And if we don't believe in Jesus Christ, the desire to die is probably a pretty thing to succumb to. Okay? But it's not right. And I don't want a law that says it's okay for the doctor in the hospital to put me to death when I'm having a hard time. Oh, I'm in pain. Well, yeah, you're in pain, but guess what? Maybe you wouldn't be in pain in 2 weeks. You're in pain right now. I've been in pain that I felt like, God, if I have to live with this pain for my whole life, I want to die. I have had that pain. I understand that pain. Okay? Of course, fortunately, the pain went away in a period of time. Then it once again, listening to him talk just all of a sudden you can think about the Soviet Union's technocratic kind of socialism. And is that something that you want? And of course, it talks about the welfare state in Britain. So I wanted to share this with you because what I'm doing, as I said in the very outset, is we need to think. We need to think. And we need to realize that things that we assume are happening on a grassroots level aren't. And what's important is that these things come about without really, see, this thing with the trees, for example, there's nobody in this county who was running around saying, hey, we need to have a tree shade requirement. Nobody was saying that. This came from somewhere else where a pile of technocrats sat at a table and came up with a list of silly ideas and things that were okay. Yeah, certainly if you want to save water, then you can keep evaporation from happening to a degree. Guess what? One of the driest places on your landscape is underneath a tree. Trees soak up water. Trees soak up water. If you have plants underneath the tree, you need to water it more because the plants will die if they don't get enough water. Nobody asked for that requirement. This is just my little pet peeve I'm sharing with you right now. But there's all kind of things like this that are happening all around us all the time because some group of people in Seattle, Washington, or Kalamazoo, Michigan, or San Francisco, or Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever they are. So they're a small group, and they're getting together in a committee, and they come up with these ideas, and then they tell everybody else their great ideas, and the people who respect them go, oh, yes, you are a trustworthy person. We will do what you say. We are zombies. Nobody questions anything, and we just go ahead and accept it all. It's not happening at the local level. It's not happening for you or your neighbor. It's happening for somebody else. And now, whether this is a terribly nefarious thing, like the Big C virus seems to have been pretty nefarious, okay? But whether it's meant to be nefarious or meant to be, it's just an innocent thing. It didn't come from you and you don't care, and you are having to live by the rules that somebody else are making up that don't make any sense. God gave you a brain. I believe in God. And that's one reason, hey, when I read the Bible and it says I'm not supposed to be killing myself, well, I'm not going to kill myself. I know people who have, know of people who have. It's a sad thing. It's a selfish thing. And I can come up with all kind of reasons why one would, but they're not doing it if they have a relationship with God. I do, because God is truth. That's what I believe. So, as I close all my videos, I urge you to seek the truth, whatever it is. That's what I'm talking to you right now about. This whole thing is about what is true and what is just something made up. If you want the truth, like I do, then I believe you pray to God and ask God, all you want to know is the truth. Nothing else matters. And I'm very confident you will find the truth. Have a good day.